Hello, everybody, and welcome to Best of Three, an esports podcast by Organized Gaming. I'm Mike, and beside me is...
Beside me this way? Yeah, it's Alex. How's it going, guys?
Good to see you. And with us today, we've got Chris Lama and Landon Gorbenko from Northern Esports Academy, NEA, Toronto, I guess is the last part of that. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, I'm doing awesome.
Yeah,
it sounded a little bit sarcastic, but okay.
Landon sarcasm always, for sure.
Both of you guys we've had on the podcast before, but kind of in a different light. Landon, of course, we had on from Vertex Performance on our Brains and More Brains episode. We actually were thinking of making that Brains and Brawn kind of thing, but turns out that both of them are very brain oriented. So Landon, have you been since our last talk?
Pretty good. Just been working with loads and loads of athletes, kind of consulting with different companies, starting up Northern Esports, working with Chris a little bit, going around the whole ecosystem of esports. And every day I love esports just a little bit more.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about what you've been doing since then. So now you're working with more athletes and more esports people. Tell me about what a day looks like for you.
Oh, every day is a little bit chaotic, I suppose. But I have every day I kind of started out my routine. And I do a routine every morning just because that's also one of the things that I'll teach athletes is that routine is really good for kind of cultivating performance. You get in that schedule and you're good to go. So every morning I wake up. Oh, just flung a marker. Every day, nice. every day I wake up. I'll do a little bit of reading, a little bit of research right off the bat, just because it wake up slow, get the brain juices flowing. Then I walk my dog a little bit. Then I jump into some meetings afterwards, and I kind of pepper coffee throughout all of that throughout the day. And then leaning more towards the evening side of things is when I start working with athletes, just because it seems whether it's like school or work, that's usually when people are free. So we'll dive into some sessions, whether it's goal setting and planning or working on some mentality shifts or planning out their days or their structures or routines or anything like that. But that's kind of the way it goes. This morning, have my own little routine to prep for the day, start working with different kinds of companies or consultancies, and then work with athletes in the evening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, the grind don't stop. Seriously. When do you find time to sleep?
Actually, truthfully, and this is me living by my own words. I protect my sleep. Like I always aim for my 8 hours. Like I don't let that sacrifice for anything. It's like if I have to shift meetings or shift schedules, I usually will. I mean, occasionally I'll go down to like 5 or 6 hours if I have to, but I'm pretty religious about my 8 hours just because I know the importance of it. And if I'm telling all the athletes that you should be sleeping for 8 hours, then I better also live that as well.
Yeah, if you preach it, you got to live it, right? So
yeah. The one thing I don't tell people to do is grow a mustache, as you can see.
Landon goes to bed at like 6:30 p.m. every night.
Yeah, my wind down, like by the time I hang up the phone with everybody or I'm done, I mean, occasionally there's something a little bit later, but pretty much by 10 p.m. is the latest I'll go, and it's wind down from there. I'm asleep by like 11ish or so, and then up at 6 or 7.
Sure.
Awesome. Sure. So Chris Lama, how you been?
I've been. That's about it.
Yeah. Where were you? What were you doing the last time we had you on?
The last time I was there, I believe I was the project manager for Organized Gaming. Right. We were talking about OG.
No, you were talking. I think the last time you were on, we were actually speaking about level 6.
I don't know. Let's just roll the tape. Yeah. I think it was kind of revolving around OG, Amuka, that kind of stuff that was going on.
Yeah. Okay.
Since I've kind of taken a step back and now I'm basically all in Northern Esports, working on that, making sure that we're ready to launch, and we have the best possible programs that I'm sure we'll get into in a bit for all of our students and our athletes.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys you in particular were able to stick around still, and were able to see your bearded face every once in a while.
Working on throwing it out. I should just keep it until I'm allowed to see all you guys in person, and then.
Well,
your mic is casting a shadow on the beard. It's making it look even thicker.
Perfect. I'm gonna keep it right there.
Very thick beard. Yeah. I remember the last time we had you on. obviously we weren't video recording that last one, and people.
I think we did.
No, not that one. I don't think. Did we?
Yeah,
There might be footage somewhere.
Yeah,
There's definitely footage somewhere. Actually, was that back when you just had the mustache?
No, that was for Movember.
I've been on the show so many times.
You've been on, you've been around for so long. Like some people won't know this, but like Llama was like behind the camera for a lot of them. Or behind the mics for a lot of them, just kind of acting as shadow producer almost.
Yeah, so he definitely heard all of the podcasts. He's been around the podcast a lot. So happy to have you guys back, really.
Yeah, and so what? And I'll ask the same question to you then, Chris. What does a typical day look like for you now?
Well, I sleep in until like 1 o'clock when Landon has been up for 12 hours. No, I've been trying to get into also a good morning routine. Waking up, I generally try to go for a walk, 20-30 minute walk in the morning, get some blood flowing, come home, then I eat whatever I decide for breakfast that day. Always throw in a yogurt, a nice Greek yogurt.
There you go.
Nice.
Then check my schedule for the day. I don't really start any meetings until 10:30, so I can be awake and ready. I'm not generally a normal morning person. I like to work later at night while Landon's in bed. We have that alternating schedule. I always give myself about 5 to 10 minutes between meetings. So in case they run long or I need to go get water, and then give myself a good 30 to 40 minute lunch, and then try to squeeze another walk in during the day. But if I can't, then it is what it is. And then nighttime is sometimes me time, other times team management time. But I like to try to get a stream in every once in a while. And that's about a day in the life.
So that's all well and good. What I'd like to know is actually where. So what does a day look like in terms of what you do? So not just what you wake up and like go and eat and all that. Like that's all great. That's all part of the process. But what is your calling right now?
So the past 2 weeks has been a lot of LinkedIn and phone calls, meeting new people in the industry. The one good thing about this pandemic is that it's given us a lot of opportunities to be home and talk to people we never had the chance to in the past.
Definitely a lot more available people now.
Lots of people are starting up new programs. Lots of people are looking to collaborate on new programs. So basically, lots of calls just chatting with people. What can I do for you? What can you do for me? That kind of stuff. What kind of synergies? And we'll have a recap meeting usually a week or 2 weeks later to see if we've made any changes. And then we go from there. A little bit of kind of program development we're working on, but not too much right now because we've been tied up with calls. So probably next week I'm going to personally be slowing down the calls and working more on programming.
Right.
And so at this juncture of your esports career, and I guess even Landon's esports career, now starting up NEA together, you guys, this isn't your first time working together on projects. Tell us a little bit about the history with you two.
You guys have been working together for how long now? It's been a while.
It's Landon's first day in Toronto, really.
Yeah, I can kind of kick that off a little bit, but after I finished all my schooling and finished my master's, I was working in traditional sports for a hot minute, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, the career I wanted to go. And I started looking for kind of how to transition to esports, and I started digging around. I don't know, it was ages ago now.
Right.
And I was living back out west in Calgary because that's where I'm from. And I got connected with Chris through one of the LAN centers here. And they patched me through to him saying Chris has an esports team in Toronto. And I was like, oh, cool. Got on a phone call and then booked a flight, moved to Toronto, and kind of just I don't know, just committed.
All that it took.
I want
to be. It was love at first sight.
The thing is, it's like I wanted to be in esports so bad, just because like I've always been into gaming, always been into esports, and I wanted to make that happen. And there's just Calgary. I mean, I don't know if you guys know much about Calgary, but there's no such thing as esports out there.
Pretty wacky,
you got the rodeo and hockey. That's
Canada Cup Gaming is from Calgary. That was a big expo. So, yeah,
but like there was, before I came to Toronto, there was a league that was trying to start up called Calgary Esports League, or the Cell, and then it crashed pretty quick just because there's not much for esports out there. So I really wanted to find a way in, and this was meeting Chris was my excuse to like, all right, cool. I have a reason to leave now. Let's go. So I just kind of like full commit to esports and just, network, get experience, build up reputation, build up your own skills by working with different kinds of people. And so it's been a long while now. It feels like it's been a wild ride.
I'm surprised you stayed after our first meeting.
Tell me about that first meeting.
How did that go?
I told him to meet me at said LAN center at, I can't remember what time it was. And
10,
he showed up and it was closed. I forgot that they were closed. They didn't open till like 1:00 on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Oh,
so
wow.
I roll up. I'm like, "Where are you at?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just standing outside." Like, cool. Yeah, they're closed. So we went to, can't remember where we went, but it was a Tim Hortons, a not good area. And we just sat there and we chatted for a bit, and then for some reason he called me back, and here we are today.
So what kind of things did you talk about in that first meeting?
I can't remember if I was already starting to establish the academy, but it was mostly about Shattered Dreams and talking about like the needs that our players have. And Landon told me about what he does, and I think like within a week we onboarded him, and he started working with us and told me all about RuneScape and how much of a great esport it is.
RuneScape is not an esport. It's barely a game.
Thank you for having us on, but
it's a lifestyle. All right.
It is.
And I still, ever since I tried convincing you to play RuneScape, I still haven't played it.
I have a feeling, I can't remember exactly when. I can't remember when you came, what month it was, but I'm pretty sure I had already started working on. Yeah, I had already really started. By April, I pitched Northern Esports to him, and like right away.
And so when was this?
Around April of last year.
Last year.
I think that's when I pitched.
I came March-ish. I don't remember what time in March. And then, I think it was like a month and a half or so afterwards that the academy, Chris, he had a different name for it at the time. But that was like the groundwork or the initial days of the academy. So over a year ago now.
Yeah, we were gonna geolocate it, and then I think it was brought up by probably Landon and the team. They're like, we probably shouldn't keep it to a specific location. So we're just closing doors like that. So that's when Northern came to life. We got a nice graphic done, and
I didn't realize actually that you guys had hooked up like right around then, because we started sponsoring you Shattered Dreams in I think March of last year.
Yeah, everything just happened so fast.
Yeah,
I was I
actually thought you guys had hooked up, and you guys were longtime partners or whatever it is. Wow, okay.
The first time, oh, sorry, go for it.
You can go.
The first time I met you was when you were delivering those black with like transparent goldish whatever writing of the OG on the shirt to some of the SXD boys. That was the first time I ever met you, and I wanted one of those shirts so bad.
No shirt for you, Landon.
I gotta earn that.
I think I remember.
Don't worry, we'll have one. We'll get one to you soon. I promise. you.
Yeah. No, I think I remember that. That was back at MOG.
Yeah.
Okay.
Long time ago. But that was the first time I ever met you.
A lifetime ago.
I felt so bad because we had it planned to give all the guys stuff, and Landon was just there. I'm like, I don't have anything for you this time. Sorry, but here's a hug.
I guess I'll go back to Calgary.
Yeah.
Oh, and so that's all history now. So let's fill in the gaps a little bit more before we take a break. So between when you guys actually met and between now when NEA is getting ready to take off, what kind of things have you guys been working on together?
I think what's over a large portion of that, it was just SXD based things. We were really trying to get different competitive teams up and running, get them trained, get them into different kinds of scenes to build reputation. And that was what it was for a long period of time. And then as it kind of was like SXD was here, the academy was here. Then as time went on, like we kind of transitioned more over to the academy side. And then that's what we've been working on lately is now it's a big priority of the focus is on the academy and trying to get training programs established for Toronto and really build that name for ourselves here in the local scene.
Exactly.
What I think is great about that is you guys have always had a focus on development. So even with your competitive team and even with the academy, it's all in the same mission. You guys want to develop players. You want to make sure these young up and comers have a place to go, have a place to learn, and can really make a career out of themselves. And you guys are really carrying out the same mission that you had when you started Shattered Dreams as well, I think.
I think it's just a hole in the industry right now. Is everyone wants to be a pro, but there's no true path to get there. So if we can give at least the local players an opportunity to come in, work with now industry professionals, they have that chance to actually grow their brand. And you've seen it with Shattered Dreams, that we've had a few success stories where players are winning large tournaments, getting signed to big teams, all of that kind of stuff, right? So if we can help shape at least the local scene for now and the Canadian scene, then I think we're doing a good job here.
Yeah, and the way I always say to everybody else is that in traditional sports, you get the support systems growing up through whatever sport you're playing. But esports, it's really like a free for all until you make it on a team. But then there's a huge amount of expectations and stress and demands that are placed on the kids. Like if you have a kid that was training and practicing all their life by themselves or whatever it is, and they get put on a roster, you can't expect them to have good reputation online or professionalism, because they haven't been taught that. Like it's a little bit unreasonable to expect a high thing from them because they haven't had the chance to be coached or given the structures or the supports necessary. And so that's kind of what we're aiming at, is giving people that growth and development and those structures growing up, so that when they're ready to go to the pro scene, they don't have anything holding them back. They don't have like a bad perception online. They aren't toxic. They aren't treating others poorly because they've been trained and all that already. Plus they're just so far ahead of everybody else because they've gone through coaching the entire time. They haven't been left to themselves to try and figure out how to get better. And that's the kind of industry that we're aiming for in Toronto, is like, we'll get you to where you need to be. We'll also teach you some other skills along the way, like how to manage your own brand, how to have an online persona or whatever it might be. Because I know we've seen lots of kids kind of come up in esports who are absolutely phenomenal at the game, but they can't get signed to an org because of the way they act online. And that's a huge red flag. Like I know so many orgs nowadays who are like, we wish we could sign that kid, but do you see the way they act on Twitter or the things they say? Like, we can't have that on our team. That goes against our culture and our values. So that's one of the things that we want to train kids in, is make sure that they understand that their words online actually do carry weight, and it doesn't matter how good you are anymore. It matters like the way you act as well.
PR Llama. It's all about PR.
There it is.
Yeah.
All right. And so we'll get a little bit more into what NEA is and how all that kind of relates to what you're talking about after we come back from the break. So stick around. If you're in the Twitch chat, make sure you leave some questions over in the side. Leave some questions over in the chat. I will make sure to ask those. And we'll see you in a little bit. Hello and welcome back to Best of Three in our conversation with Chris Lama and Landon Gorbenko. Guys, let's talk about NEA. Lama, I'm gonna pass it off to you first. What is Northern Esports Academy?
Pressure. It's a professional RuneScape coaching clinic. No, in all seriousness, we are a dedicated esports training program for youth development in the esports scene. Mainly focused right now around the Canadian development. We want to be able to give players the opportunity to forge their own path for in-game streaming, production, all the good things that come along with esports. It's not just about playing a game. Like Landon said earlier, it's about marketing yourself, being a good person online and with your team. So all of that, all wrapped up into one little company.
Wow.
And so anything to add to that, Landon?
I think Chris actually hit the nail on the head there, but there is a big emphasis on, like, sure, we're providing that training for you if you want to go pro in, or if you want to get to like a collegiate team in League of Legends or R6 or Fortnite or whatever it might be. But we are putting a big emphasis on those skills outside of that, like PR and brand development. Quite truthfully, like, if you can learn to have a respectful and professional attitude on Twitter, you're probably going to be a better teammate, so you're probably going to be better at the game anyways, right there. So even those little things do play a role in performance, and so we want to make sure that we hit that whole side of an athlete, not just target their in-game mechanics.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I tend to make, like a lot of people tend to make the draw the line between esports and traditional sports, where on and off the field, it's about how you present yourself. It's about how you operate your social game. It's all a part of it. And then when you get on the field and you're actually participating, it's about your skill. It's about your communication. It's about just so much is going on. However, I will say that a big glaring difference between traditional and esports right now is that traditional sports has a very clear path. Like people know, people can see where that game and that skill has taken other people, and they're able to see
Follow
that people
that
can make a career off of it. Exactly, they make the follow path. But for esports, you kind of discover it. Even things like collegiate, that's something for me. What I'm noticing, that a lot of people in like high school or elementary school, they don't see it until they actually get to post-secondary, and then they're like, oh man, I wish there was a college team for this game that I played really well. And either there is one, or I guess I have to make it, which a lot of people are doing right now.
Still, the industry's so young still. Really, it really is, especially in the kind of, again, where we're coming from with the development side. Like, there's other academies and there's other, I mean, the academy term in esports right now is more of like a second roster for a team, not necessarily the academy that we're trying to build. Although, like I said, there are other academies, but I think a lot of them are trying to go like right into the schools, as opposed to being an extracurricular and a development program. Right. So that's kind of how we've positioned ourselves.
So what's the idea there? So how does NEA work in that sense?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Jump on this. Yeah. One of the things that we are trying to do here is like you mentioned, how people grow up and they're like, oh no, I wish I could have played League of Legends on a collegiate team, right? Like,
right.
One of the things we do want to start establishing, I'm not going to get too much into detail here, just kind of give you like a broad view on it, but we do want to create some competitive but developmental leagues where teams who are looking to go into like a T2, T1, or collegiate or varsity level team, like whatever their goal is, this is the league they come in. We'll provide coaching staff for them, give them kind of like breakdowns and rundowns, give them the mental performance coaching, give them PR training, brand development, stream training, like give them the whole range of training within this league. So they, like, a team will come in with the goal of going forward, and we'll try and push them there that way. That way they're still getting that competitive edge. They're still getting the training they want, and it helps them kind of grow up in the ladder a little bit, which is great, and pushes them in the right direction. Because like you said, a lot of kids, they might want something, but they might not know it exists, or they might not know how to do it. And that's one of the things that we'll be helping with providing a little bit.
For sure. And I mean, again, it's just another avenue for education. Like a lot of people will play like varsity soccer or varsity whatever, all through their education career without really any desire to go for it full time afterward. But it's at the same time, it teaches like life skills that are completely invaluable.
And I think that's why parents are so gung ho about getting their children into traditional sports.
Yes.
And it's very important, I think, to get the parents involved in the esports aspect as well. You have to be able to see the benefits of that as well.
So one of the things we are trying to encourage to parents when we do start our in-person coaching. So once we start, let's say, weekly events, we want to encourage the parents to stay for the first 30 minutes for theory, just so they can sit there. They don't have to ask any questions. They can just be there, and maybe they'll absorb some understanding of whatever the game is their kid playing. But the parent support is such a huge aspect to any kind of thing. Yes, my dad supported me when I was playing baseball and hockey. Now he asks me every once in a while, how's your esports stuff going? I'm like, that's great that he's asking. The support makes a huge difference. Yeah. So if the parent asks, oh, I saw you learned about rotations this week in Rocket League, and the kid is going to be like, oh, you were paying attention in class? And then they can start talking about that kind of stuff, and it'll hopefully give that kid a little bit more like drive to learn. That video that you guys did at DreamHack, I think, with Papa Rizzo, that's the parent that we want on our team. Or we want to educate the parent to be that guy. I want to show that video to every parent first week. So you're gonna have to give me rights to that. But it means so much, and listening to him and the passion that, and he's there. So I don't know, I can go on forever about it, but parents, support your kids.
Yeah, I'll chime in here too. It's just like, and I tell the story to everybody, just to show you like the power of parents in esports. Is I was talking to a pro player one time, and I was asking him, like, just trying to pick his brain, trying to learn from him because he's pro, so he obviously knows something. I was like, what was the defining factor that made you better than everybody else? Like, how did you get here? How are you who you are? And the first answer, without even thinking, he said it was that my dad was my biggest supporter. Like, and I was like, what does that mean? Like, how did your dad support you? Did he just like cheer you on? He's like, no, my dad taught me skills and life advice. He taught me how to look at the training as if it was like a job, and that it's not always like getting good at a game isn't always about fun. It's about putting in the hard work and doing what's not enjoyable so that you can become the best. And like just went on this whole list of things that his dad did for him to help support him in his career. And like whether it was driving him to tournaments or helping him get entrance into different games or providing him the equipment, right? Like a big hurdle for parents is like, oh, gaming computer's expensive. How am I going to afford a new graphics card? But when you look at traditional sports, like hockey is an expensive sport to play with all the gear and everything. Like you have to look at your computer as the gear in hockey or as the gear in like your cleats in soccer. It is the expense of the sport. So trying to find ways to create that environment that your kids can thrive in.
Your computer fits longer than your hockey skates will.
Yeah.
You mentioned you mentioned other parents, and I heard something that another parent had mentioned to me as well, and they were working really hard on differentiating with their kid the difference between just gaming and gaming with a purpose, like training or anything like that. So their child is limited to a certain amount of just fun gaming time. They can do whatever. But if they're training, if they're working on their builds, if they're working on their speed or their reflexes, these things, they're allowed to sit there and train. But as soon as it goes into like, just some whatever gameplay and they just want to have some fun, then they sort of start that clock of, hey, now you're just gaming and this is not training anymore. So really interesting stuff to differentiate.
Yeah, esports is kind of tricky where it's like you can go into a mindless state at any point because it's so easy to just like play without thinking. And it's something that's one of those like parameters as a parent you have to understand, and you have to create those boundaries like that person. But there is ways around it, like having those time limits on just fun gaming and whatnot, because doing it as a skill is beneficial to you. Playing mindlessly isn't really. So there's definitely some things, and that's where the parent education comes in that we want to help with. Is like when you come in to watch your kids sit down for training, like you're going to get training on that as well to learn how to create those parameters for your kids.
Right. Yeah, no, setting boundaries is definitely a big thing for parents. And then for the kids themselves, the aspiring esports competitors, like let's speak from their perspective a little bit too. What are some things that they need to be aware of themselves and how they should be handling themselves online?
I touched on it earlier when it came down to how they are online. Their online persona is basically everything, even if they get shitty in a game. And if they're out typing nonsense in chat when I'm playing Rainbow Six or Rocket League, whatever I'm playing at the time, there's every once in a while I'll go look up their name and see if they're part of an organization or if that name is tied to something. So I've got my eyes on people whether they're on Twitter and something happens. I want to know who they are, and I'm sure other organizations want to. Like Landon said before, if somebody's reaching out to an org or whatever it is, like we know how your persona is. So we want to make sure that these guys are tweeting properly, representing not only themselves, but they might have to be representing a brand. If I've got a sponsor on, like you're representing them at the same time, and your contract states that. Themselves, their team, the venue that they're at. I don't want a player coming to Waves who's going to be toxic somebody's not going to want to be there if that person's in the room with them. So there's so much that they need to worry about.
Yeah, and from an org perspective too, like if you're a coach or a manager or an org owner and you're scouting out for new players and you go and you see someone's Twitter feed is full of them flaming other people or raging or saying inappropriate things, it's a safe bet that they're probably a bad teammate. They might come into like the tryouts or whatever, and they'll have their best personality on showcase at that point. But you know from the way they act online that eventually that person's going to come out and they're going to treat their teammates exactly like they're treating everybody else online. So most orgs nowadays, they're just not willing to take a chance on somebody that's acting out like that online because unfortunately there's just a huge amount of players out there. So orgs aren't just going to pick the best player. They're going to pick the players that are best with the best personality as well.
Do you think there's enough skill out there, skilled players out there that have both at their arsenal, like at the ready, and to be able to go into professional organizations with everything ready for them?
Yeah, and it's like there's more people that want to play Fortnite or more people that want to play League of Legends than soccer or football or hockey. Like that, the talent pool is much bigger. I would say a lot of people maybe aren't as developed, but you can kind of get an assessment of who's going to be the better choice or who's the best person to put your money on. Someone might not be exactly where you want them to be. Like you can catch them getting angry, but you see that they're trying to work on something, or they're maybe they're just like posting positive tweets on some people's comment or messages or something. I don't know. Like you can see indications that people are working on themselves. So they might not be there yet, but you can see that they want to be there. And those are the people that you hedge your bets on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that was on the side of the kids. We spoke on the side of the parents. I kind of want to combine the two now. Magic the Panda in Twitch says parents are willing to go throw or kick a ball around for an hour, however long, with their kids. They need to do that with esports as well. What do you guys think about that?
So I started gaming with my dad. When I was younger, like he got me on NES back in the day. I was probably not very good because I was like, 3 or 4. But as I grew up and new games are coming out, he was always the first one to play NHL with me or NASCAR or whatever it was, just so he saw what I was doing. He wanted to be involved. Of course, baseball, hockey, we had all that other stuff going on. But if I was gaming, whether it be for an hour, he's like, bring the Xbox downstairs and let's play NHL hits or whatever. So I've lived that, and I'm happy to have the support that I've had, and I know the other side where there's not. So finding a game maybe that you can collaborate and play with your parents with, if possible, would be great. I'm seeing it a lot more with the newer generation of parents that are coming along, as opposed to probably like my parents are much older, so I got a very rare case.
Yeah, you got lucky. Yeah.
Ask your parents, hey, what if we were to play a video game together, what would it be? Even if it's like Overcooked or something like that, you play with your mom or your sister, like get the family involved, have fun with it, enjoy it, keep it non-competitive. And that's probably what it boils down to. So with that, maybe we can start some kind of fun family league or family night together with Northern Esports. You just sparked an idea. Bring it over to Wave, have all the families come in and they play an Overcooked tournament or whatever it is.
It's a fantastic idea. I think that's very crucial to bringing them into the ecosystem. So
we can help start it. So,
and did either of you guys play any games with your parents?
Well, Llama did, and
I mean Landon and you
a little bit.
Yeah,
briefly with my dad on Xbox, the original Xbox, we played Amped, the snowboarding game. I don't know why.
That's a good game.
Loved Amped, and he actually got really good at it at one point. But that was about it. I tried teaching him Halo once. I think it was Halo 3 or Halo 2 or one of them. But his brain couldn't function with 2 sticks, so he would walk forward with one, and he could his brain just couldn't comprehend using two dual sticks, and so he'd have to stop to look around, and then he'd have to switch back to walking. And that
need to get like GoldenEye on N64.
You're really good at CS:GO. Stop. Look.
Actually, yeah, he'd be great at CS:GO or Valorant because you're forced to
can't shoot.
But no, that was the extent of my playing with my parents. I was always a solo player.
My parents were very
I'm sorry to jump around a little bit like this. Landon, did you have something else to say about that last topic?
What was the last topic? Oh, yes, the magic, the panda.
Yes.
Yeah, it is crucial because it's like, imagine you're a parent. I mean, Mike, I know you are, but everybody else, imagine you're a parent and your kids are doing something like playing video games. Until like at that point, if you don't understand that world, it's like a mystery and it's very easy to fear something you don't understand, right? Like if my kid's sitting down and playing League of Legends all day, I will only see that as a negative until I can understand it. So by joining them, even if it's like an hour every so often, or watching videos with them, watching the LCS go with them, or like watching Cloud9 play because they're the only ones worth watching. Like like just getting involved in their world helps you understand what they're doing, and it's much harder to fear something once you understand it. And that's kind of what we want to do, is we want parents to understand what their kids are doing and be able to create healthy parameters around that. Because it's like, if you're a parent that fears it, your kid's going to be playing video games either way. Like, I'm sorry to say it, that's just the world we live in now. They're going to be playing regardless.
And I think it's
yeah.
Sorry, yeah. So you cut out for a second there. So I thought that I had to jump in. No, it's all good. You want to finish the thought?
I don't know where I cut out at.
Oh, that's all good. So I'll build off of that a little bit then. To me as a parent, and seeing my child doing things for an extended period of time, the question always kind of runs through my mind now, because I was one of those people who had parents who didn't really understand what I was doing and would kind of see that I was playing a game or doing anything really for an extended period of time and just getting upset about it. For me, the first question that kind of runs through my head is why is she doing this for a long period of time? Is it because of bad tendencies, or is it because of some kind of passion, or is it because of some kind of interest that I can help? And if I don't want her to be doing one specific thing for X amount of hours, I need to, as a parent, think of what other kinds of things can I do that will stimulate the same kind of interest that she has, but just kind of direct it in a more productive way. And for some people, that is actually gaming. For some people, it's not. But I think that parents are probably the best people who can decide and to judge, where their kids' focus is when they're focused on something.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about kids, humans in general, is that we are extremely good at learning. And sometimes that learning is actually bad, because if you're doing something that's unhealthy, you're learning a habit that's bad for you. And it becomes so ingrained in you. So imagine like an 8, 9, 10-year-old who's playing Fortnite 12 hours a day. They have learned essentially this habit that's destructive to them. So if you're a parent and you can help them learn a healthy habit instead of learning an unhealthy habit, then you've just created a kid that's probably got better life skills, better self-regulation, and is more likely better at the game. But it's like, without that component, without understanding your kid's world, your kid's going to potentially learn a bad thing. And we're we're very good at learning. So we can learn bad things fast. And that's, like I said, that could be a bad thing, right? So.
Right. So having the parents involved again, you're very for.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I absolutely. And I mean, that even goes for things like school, right? Like kids who have help with their or parents who help their kids with homework. Those kids are learning better because like they're having that bond created. They're learning from somebody they look up to and trust. Like, it's the same reason why if you don't like your teacher, you don't learn as much, because you don't connect with them. So if your parents helping, you might be connecting with your parent more, and you might be learning faster. So it's like there's almost no negatives other than a parent losing an hour of time.
I think I was more in the classic case that you were talking about, where a lot of my gaming was super unhealthy, and in no way did they see.
Same.
Like it sounds like we've lost Alex too.
Oh, I thought that was me again. I was like, oh
Nope.
no.
I thought it was me. I thought we dropped the whole thing. It's all good.
I had to look around. I was like, wait a second, Lama's here.
Yeah, I was frozen. So
Everyone blink.
But okay, so I like that. I can build off of what Alex was saying. Started to say his parents were, or he actually was saying, wasn't he, that he was the one who had the unhealthy habits, And that's interesting too, to like hear somebody kind of reflect on their own past and see that it was unhealthy. I'm sure Alex can attest to when he comes back that it's hard to see when you're in the moment if you have any habits that are unhealthy, whether you're in game or social, or the amount of time that you're spending actually playing. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Oh, we see him.
Yeah, he's coming back.
Whoa.
There you are. Alex,
Whoa.
tell me about your experience gaming. You said that
Yes.
like now you realize that you had unhealthy habits. What was that?
Yeah,
like?
it was what I was showing my parents was unhealthy gaming. I didn't show them anything. I wasn't working towards becoming competitive. I wasn't working towards using these skills to create something. I was gaming 12 hours a day in the summer. I didn't have school. I was on break, and I now realize that why my parents were that way, and I didn't help the situation. So if there's any, kids out there who want to get your parents to understand, you got to see it from their point of view as well, and help to try to bridge that gap as well. Because ultimately, it's going to be, more about gaming than your parents do, and you can try to help bring them in as well. Your parents can help try to learn something new. So
they do, but they might not. The kid, yes, 100% knows more about the gaming than the parents do, but they might not know the depth and exactly how to explain it to them. Like people who are in the higher ups on teams and organizations like ourselves. Not saying we're better than them in any way, but we have our ways of kind of like, massaging that information in and saying, as we've been saying for the past half hour or whatever, it's not just about the game.
Yeah,
there's so much more to it. Exactly.
So, but I think really the importance is getting something productive out of that. And I really was not.
Right.
What my parents saw was me sitting in front of a computer yelling at people for all of the time. So
you should have just played League of Legends. There's no yelling in League.
Nobody gets toxic in there.
Very common.
The friendliest game I've ever played.
No, that's
all right. That is RuneScape.
Other than RuneScape.
All right. We'll keep talking a little bit. We've got a couple more questions to answer. We're going to do that when we come back. Again, if anybody in the chat has any questions for the fine folk over at NEA, make sure you leave those in Twitch chat. We'll be back in just a second. Welcome back to Best of 3 in our conversation. Oh my God, that looks terrifying. That was so terrifying, guys.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, everybody. So on the break, we were talking about some of the habits that you have, Chris, actually. Chris, from what I've seen and from what I'm sure lots of people have seen, you're very active on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us the story that you were telling us just a few seconds ago.
Okay.
In whatever fashion that you want to say it.
For sure. Yeah. So I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I generally actually try to spend a little bit of time on the weekends to prep for the upcoming days for LinkedIn, so I can schedule my week. I like to meet people from all over the place. As I was mentioning to you guys off air, my girlfriend lives in Indiana. So anytime I'm going usually I go for a week, maybe 2 weeks. So I make sure I search up Indiana Esports so I can find somebody along the way to have a coffee with, to chat about what they're up to, because the US is actually, they move fast on everything, sometimes too fast, but they're doing a little bit different with stuff. So there's one guy I met, his name's John, I believe it's John Robertson. He's the head of the esports circuit, Indiana high school esports something in their state. He works out of one of the high schools there, and he is the guy when it comes to getting all of the teams connected. He runs Forza Motorsports leagues, Smash, and I think there's a couple of other ones. They're trying to get into like easy in games, mostly console games.
Right.
And he connects all the teams. They do online streaming, that kind of stuff. So yeah, back to that. If I'm going somewhere, wherever it is, any kind of trip, I want to meet one new person from that area and have coffee with them. I'll tell them, I will buy you a coffee. I just want an hour of your time. Pick your brain, see what you guys are up to. Now it takes nothing to do that because everyone's at home. So get on LinkedIn, and this is for everyone. Every gamer should be on LinkedIn anyway, because eventually you're going to want to put your resume on there. Get on there, connect with people who have esports in their title, send them a quick message and be like, hey, I'm new here. Like, can we have a conversation? More than like 70% of the time, they're going to give you the time of day. Whether it's 15 minutes or an hour, you're going to get that valuable experience with those people. So I just say, get on LinkedIn.
It's not just for business people.
It's not. It's not. It's really not. It's for good professional connections. You're not going to get that on any other platform other than LinkedIn.
Yeah, and you're not going there for memes. You're not going like this is quality.
Yeah. I even upload my own content there where I'm explaining like coaching principles or sports psychology applicable to esports or whatever it might be. Like it's not about business. It's about like getting your name out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is about business, but it's also about
I don't want to get particularly into the Indiana high school esports scene, but I do want to kind of speak about how esports. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of slow to be integrated into the Canadian schooling system, and I want to kind of get your take on how we can kind of push that along, or what needs to happen for that to be pushed along. Like, what's happening, guys?
that look.
It's kind of like a multifaceted reason. This is just for my own perceptions. I don't have the definite hard answers here. One being geography. We don't have that many major cities, so we don't have a whole lot of structure like it does in the States, where there's just like countless amounts of big cities where you can get lots of competition and lots of networks going. That's one facet of it. Probably a little bit to do with government differences as well. There's a little bit, each state has a little bit more leniency when it comes to what you can implement in schools and what's going forward and those kind of things. And I think there's a little bit more red tape in Canada when it comes to that. And typically we are just slower on adopting new ideas like this. Like esports is scary and everybody's scared to jump the gun with it.
Sure.
It's coming. Like there's no doubt in my mind. Even like when I first came here and started working with Chris to now, just like everything is different. Like the esports industry that I came into in Canada is absolutely different from the way it is now, which is good. Yeah. And it's changing very, very rapidly. And the more it changes, the faster it's going to start changing too, right? It's like that snowballing effect. And as the States is more successful with implementing esports and those things, we're also going to start picking it up a little bit quicker as well.
And the thing is, like, there's traditional sports is proven. It's been proven for decades and decades and decades. And you can see how quickly even high schools and universities adopt new sports. Like when I was in high school, ultimate frisbee was starting to get big. Our school picked up on it right away. Like, but they can't get across to esports yet. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's the funding. Obviously, they need the kinds of funds to get the equipment that they need, but we have the facilities to do so that it doesn't have to be in the school, which is why I'm saying the way we've positioned is extracurricular. Like, bring your school to our program and we'll run something at Waves after school for you guys. So once we can prove that, then I'm assuming that they'll be able to start opening their eyes a little bit more, and then they'll be able to bring the facilities in, like a Durham College who's got a fully integrated esports LAN center in their school, so their teams can come train. Campus. It'll come, like Landon said. It might take another couple of years, but if we can kind of start that roll and we can be involved with those changes, then we do it. So any parents and teachers listening right now, talk to us and we'll get you guys started.
And there's also at the higher levels of education, there's a little bit of gatekeeping, I'd say, where it's like, and this kind of is similar to the conversation with parents. It's a lot of that older generation who's in charge of universities, right? Typically old people, because you don't have young people as presidents of the universities. They don't fully understand esports. To them, because they don't understand it, it's still just playing by yourself, playing like World of Warcraft or playing whatever it might be. That's what it is. That's the extent. There's no value. There's no competition. There's no value in it in general. so they don't allow it into the system. So it's really, as the old guard phases out and the new generations kind of take over, esports will absolutely blow up. And it's happening. Like, you see, like, people in our generation having kids, they're raising their kids in a gaming environment, not to fear gaming, but to do it healthy.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I would also argue that, again, from the parent perspective and speaking with other parents and kind of understanding from the parental point of view, is that you are the age of your child. You are about their, you are all about their circle. You know what kind of things that they like, and you become advocates for the things that they enjoy. The kind of unfortunate part, I would say, about esports is that you can be into it by 10, you can be really good at it by 20, but you don't understand why you do it until typically 25 to 30, at which point the parents of those people are well into their older age. Some of them even retired, not in a position where they can influence the kind of change anymore. The people who are in their mid to late 40s, 50s, their kids are younger typically, and so it's harder to educate them when their life isn't about it, right? They're all about the education and the big strong foundations that their kids need. And so that's why I think that NEA, this is like just big facts that I want to drop right now. This is why I feel like NEA is so important, because it creates that sense of urgency and purpose and understanding within those children who are in the families of the people who are in a position of change. I'm going to go take a nap.
I feel like Mike is really speaking from experience and really becoming a parent. So he feels about this. And we have a question from Thrills in the chat. How are you able to find a healthy limit for gaming during quarantine? It's so easy to get lost and keep playing because what else is there to do? So what are some things you can replace gaming with, or what can you do about this?
Hey, Landon.
Yeah, this is a great question. This oftentimes boils down to defining your goals within gaming, right? Like, if your goal in gaming is to play the game, you can easily find yourself playing for hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of time, because you're just mindlessly plugging away with it. If you define goals that you want within the game, you can establish training patterns for it. So say I want to reach Diamond 1 in League of Legends. Okay, that's great. Now let's define my training schedule that leads up to Diamond 1. There is a threshold that you can train every day. Like, you can't train for 10 hours a day and be getting like growing or developing or having healthy living that way. You have to restrict that time in order to reach that goal. And so if you can define those goals, that you have something you want to set to, you can really define your training schedule going forward. Because you can't, like, I had somebody message me the other day asking, like, how do I train myself to play for 12 hours a day like the pros? And I told them that was a myth. Pros don't play like that anymore, because they know that ruins their goals and causes burnout. So if you, with quarantine, set yourself some gaming goals, establish a schedule for it, and then hold to that schedule. Treat that schedule like it's your religion. Don't crack on it. Don't break on it. Be like, okay, if I want Diamond 1, I can be practicing for 5 hours a day and VOD reviewing for an extra hour. That's my limit. Outside of that, I'm actually hurting myself, right? And so if you have a purpose to stop playing, then it's easier to stop playing.
Do you recommend? Do you recommend actually switching games after that, or like not playing, like no more League of Legends even for fun?
Yeah, well, I mean, the question really is, like, how do you stop gaming in general as much, right? So if I want to limit you to 5 to 6 hours of gaming a day or whatever it might be for quarantine, no, I'm absolutely not going to recommend that you switch from League to Smash, because you're still in essence playing a video games. You haven't solved the issue that you're aiming at there. But you can be doing loads of other things, right? Like, it's going to come down to what you enjoy personally. Like, I love watching YouTube videos. Like, you can do that. You can read. I love reading. Download Audible, get some free books, or get some books, go for walks, go for runs, clean your room, do something productive, right? Like, there's always things you can do if you're looking for it. And like the thing with quarantine too is you can be a little bit more lax with your training because you don't have as many responsibilities in life, and that's fine. Like you're probably going to play more than normal right now, and that's all right, but just establish that training schedule and have a purpose to stop playing every day. If you're just playing because you want to play, then you're gonna do it mindlessly for 12 hours a day. But if you understand that going beyond 6 hours is gonna hurt your goal, you now have like given yourself a reason why it's important for you to stop playing. And then you can feel that like there's no reason you can't continue training while you're outside, like whether it's like thinking about strategies or taking notes on your gameplay for the day. Like you're doing something that's still related to it, but you're still being productive and you're being very thoughtful about the process as well. So that's my advice. I mean, there's it's a very complex and long topic to talk about, but
I'm sure. Yeah.
Find yourself a reason to stop playing, and that's usually because it hurts you.
Yeah, and I think the one of the issues is, and why players continuously play, is because we're not getting physically exerted. Well, you don't feel like you are. After a really good gaming session, I don't know about you guys, but I'm gassed.
Mhm.
After a few hours of ranked play, even in Rocket League, I get to a point and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Imagine if I pushed myself, and maybe because I'm an old man, that kind of stuff happens. But when we're training for traditional sports, you get tired. You can't practice for more than 2 hours on the ice without having to take a break, or 3 hours in baseball without having to take a break. So I definitely limiting, like Landon said, you have to limit yourselves. And for me, what I do, I go for walks. I don't go for a run. I'll go for a walk. Maybe I'll do some work outside in the back and like work on a garden or something, like something that's completely not gaming related, so that I can just get my mind off of what it is and then go back to the task at hand. I personally set goals for myself. Like Landon said, my goal is to hit champ in Rocket League. So what's that going to take? It's definitely not going to take me continuously trying or like playing the game in ranked. I have to get into practice modes, figure out what I'm doing wrong that's not allowing me to progress. So, and stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
I always have my mug of water ready to go.
I have my
That's a beautiful mug.
Here.
Hey, me too.
Yeah, everyone go.
We've all got our water. One thing that I want to kind of draw attention to, there was a comment made while we were having this conversation that I think is really really interesting, and I've been thinking about a little while. Thrills in the chat says, I think this mainly applies to people who want to go pro, maybe not as much for casual gamers or content creators. And I want to kind of draw attention to that. One, because I myself am a content creator who kind of values this downtime just as much as any kind of uptime. For me, the main thing that I spend a lot of my time on right now is my YouTube channel and my podcasts. But when I am not working on my podcasts, when I am not making a video, when I am not making a blog post, which, trust me, I do a lot of work in, my downtime, my rest, the time for me to recharge and think about what I've been doing, that I don't think I'd be able to continue doing what I do if I didn't do that. And so I was curious too about the casual gaming side. I wanted to see what you guys' thoughts were on that, because there are a lot of kids out there who they just enjoy it. Like there are kids out there who like soccer, like baseball. They don't want to go pro with it.
It's a pastime,
they just like
hobby.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how does rest and how does taking breaks and pacing yourself kind of lend itself to casual gaming?
I think you stumped them. Look at their faces.
No, I
talk about RuneScape.
Yeah, let me tell you about RuneScape. No, I was kidding. You remember how I mentioned earlier that we are really we're really good at learning, and sometimes that's bad. It goes for casual gamers in that sense too, where we're really good at learning bad habits, and that's almost more applicable to the casual side, because it's very easy to go into that mindless play. Like, all right, I can sit back, I can play for the next 12 hours and not have to think. And that's kind of jumping back to what Chris said as well. When it comes to like traditional sports, you can only play X amount of hours, and your body gives up because it's run out of energy. When you look at the brain has a fatigue function, but it's not the same way that your body works, right? Like what happens over time is as you spend time on a task, your brain kind of starts to evaluate and value that task as less rewarding. And so throughout the day, as you continue playing Smash casually, it's going to get less and less rewarding. It's going to start feeling kind of monotonous, and you're going to go into that autopilot mode. You're not going to be really getting anything. You're not feeling that same level of enjoyment 12 hours into a gaming session that you did in hour 2. So here you can still set a goal in here. It doesn't have to be to reach a certain rank, but you want to understand that your goal is to have fun, to enjoy the game. And you need to be able to protect that enjoyment and protect that fun by limiting your hours. It's like when you binge too much on candy, you're going to get fat. You got to protect your health. Even though you enjoy it and it's fun to eat candy, you got to protect your health. The same goes for gaming, where you want to protect that this is fun for me. This is really enjoyable. But if you do it too much, you're going to lose that passion and motivation to play it, even casually. So if you set those limitations, your enjoyment value coming from those gaming sessions is so much higher. So say I play for 5 hours a day and you play for 12 hours a day. I probably enjoy my 5 hours more than you enjoy your 12 hours. So it's still like your goal isn't necessarily to reach a certain rank at that point, but it is to protect your level of enjoyment.
And have fun. Yeah.
And have fun. If you just do it mindlessly, your brain over time is going to value what you're doing much less. And it's going to become a habit rather than an enjoyment.
You know what it is? It's candy and barbells, man. Candy and barbells. Esports is both candy and barbells. Yeah. It's the thing that brings you enjoyment, but if you have too much of it, then you're not going to have a good time. Or it's the thing that you'll lift to practice, but if you lift too much of it, your arms are going to give out, and you're not actually going to have gained anything.
And the dangerous thing about this is, like I said, it's very easy to learn bad habits. And if you fall into this ritual of playing casually for 10, 11 hours a day, you're just going to be in a cycle of continually doing that. And you're not going to catch yourself being more bummed out and more like not as excited or happy to play. You're just kind of doing it because you've always done it, and it just continues on and on and on. And when you reflect back, 3 months down the road, you reflect back and you're like, I just wasted all my time doing something I'm not actually even enjoying it anymore.
Even casually, when I'm playing ranked, if I played, like 8 games in a day, 4 games I might have done well. The other 4 games, it's going to be a wash anyways. It'll just bring down my rank, and like my enjoyment level is gone. All of that. I feel it after the 3rd or 4th game, and I know exactly that breaking point that you're talking about. And I think that's something that a lot of gamers can feel for themselves, but they choose to ignore.
I very much have a time limit on the games that I play.
Yeah.
And not to say that as I get older, it has gone down. It probably has, but I think I didn't notice it as much when I was a kid. And again, I need to clarify in that I didn't notice it, but it was still happening. Like I would definitely get worse after a certain amount of time, but I didn't care because I thought that I was having fun. And I was not having fun.
Even the enjoyment, the toxicity, all of that goes up when you're not having fun, when you're no longer having fun, and all of that hurts you. That's building real bad habits to be toxic. So
Sweet.
Guys, any closing thoughts before we end this thing off? Non-RuneScape related closing thoughts?
I was about to go mining. Everyone makes fun of me because I like mining in that game. I do want to just quickly talk about a project that Landon kind of brought up today. What he wants to start doing. We're going to be hosting, hopefully bi-weekly little seminars on probably just like a Google Hangout, invite a bunch of people, as many as can get in. And we're just going to talk about different topics week by week. Landon's got a lot of stuff that he wants to get, that he wants to say. And we have some great topics that we want to talk about. Maybe bring a guest or two on every once in a while, talk about what they're up to in the industry.
You can call it a podcast if you want.
No, it's not a podcast. it's more a Q&A type session, AMAs with industry pros, so that we can get more information out there.
Right.
Well, there you go. Yeah,
and
guys, go and join that.
He loves to talk.
So if you guys are interested in that, reach out to either of these guys. Their information you'll be able to find it somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. On that note, guys, where can people go, and where do you want people to go? Let's start the plugs here.
LinkedIn.
There you go. So LinkedIn, head on over to LinkedIn.
I will
only search me up on LinkedIn.
I will only respond to you if you message me on LinkedIn or RuneScape. No, I'm just kidding. You can come. Sorry, shameless plug. You can. I'm very active on both Twitter and LinkedIn. So at VertexPsyc is the way you can find me on Twitter. My profile picture is a bald dude, so it's very easy to find. And then LinkedIn is just Landon Gorbenko. You know your name. Somebody will probably have to spell that out in some kind of some detail.
Don't worry, we'll throw that somewhere. Yeah.
Those are the two easiest platforms to get me. If you have any questions regarding performance in esports, how to become better, or about the Northern Esports, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm always happy to talk.
There you go. And so, Chris, you go ahead.
So you can find me on every platform, but I have different usernames. Mostly Twitter, Chris Lama _ Lama with 1 L. And then on LinkedIn, I hope you guys got your pens ready. Chris Lamarucciola. On LinkedIn, most guys, if you find me on the Waves or the Organized Gaming Discord, just right click, send me a message. I'm always happy to chat and see what you guys are all doing. Yeah. And yeah, if you have any questions about Northern Esports Academy, it's just at Northern Esports on Twitter. Our DMs are officially opened as of today. Woo. So if you have any questions about programs or getting yourself started with us, just send us a line and we will be happy to chat.
There you go. Awesome. Alex, where can people find you?
Oh, man. You can find me on Twitter or Instagram. But hit me on Twitter. KrispyKim with a K. Crispy. There you go.
There you go. And Alex, if people were looking for you right now, where can they find you?
What do you mean?
Like physically?
Physically.
Oh, I'm at Waves Gaming. So this podcast brought to us by Waves Gaming. I am at the venue here. Usually, not during quarantine, we would all be here and we'd be able to do this in person. But unfortunately, we're not able to do that.
Well,
which, by the way, is where the academy will be running out of.
Very nice. We'll see more of you guys later.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. And then for me, you can find me anywhere you find your people at StillJustMike, namely Twitter and Instagram. Easiest place to find me. Make sure to follow the podcast wherever you find your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube at Organized Gaming CO. With that, that's going to be all from us. Guys, have yourselves a great week. Landon and Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always great to have you on, and I hope to have you on after Northern Esports makes its major debut. Coming soon.
Thanks
all right.
Thank you.
Enjoy your week, everybody.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye.